Welcome back to The Explainer. So, imagine waking up one morning with this really unsettling feeling. The realization that the life you're living, it might not actually be yours. Like, every decision, every core belief, even what you think you desire, could just be a carefully built illusion. Just a script handed to you by the world. Well, today we're diving deep into exactly that. We're unpacking the radical, game-changing ideas of depth psychologist Carl Jung, because as you'll see, he believed that the person you see in the mirror is really just the tip of a massive, very mysterious iceberg.
Seriously, ask yourself right now, is the life you're living truly your own? How much of your identity is the real you, and how much is just a mask you're wearing because of outside pressure? Are you making choices because they resonate in your gut, or are you just playing a role? Most people go their whole lives without ever questioning if their daily habits are actually theirs, or if they're just following a script written by society, their upbringing, or just those little fears whispering in the background of their minds.
And this brings us to a really profound insight from Jung that basically sets the stakes for everything we're talking about today. He said, life doesn't truly begin until you find yourself. To him, psychological health wasn't about just fitting in or acting normal, not at all. It was about taking this intense inward journey. He believed that real life, like deep, fulfilling, authentic life, literally only starts when we stop running from ourselves and finally dig up the hidden forces shaping who we are.
Which leads us to part 1, the illusion of you, and how society builds your mask.
So what's actually stopping us from finding ourselves? Well, we've got to look at how we're conditioned from day one. Jung called this very first layer of the human psyche the persona. Think of it literally as a mask you put on. And look, this mask is super useful, right? It's the face we show the world so we can function, make friends, and just generally be accepted. But here's the catch. The danger creeps in when we start actually believing that we are the mask. The more you identify with this persona, the more you totally lose touch with the real, messy, vibrant person underneath.
So how does this mask get made? It's sneaky. It's a super subtle, gradual process. Right from birth, we're handed names and roles. We figure out incredibly fast which behaviors get us a gold star and which get us punished. I mean, think back to when you were a kid. Were you ever scolded just for showing real emotion? Maybe someone told you to be realistic, or stop being so sensitive, or the classic boys don't cry, or good girls don't yell. Little by little, you learn to just shove those parts of yourself into a box where nobody can see them, carefully polishing up that persona just to make sure you fit in.
Moving on to part 2, confronting the shadow and those hidden forces actually controlling you.
Okay, so what actually happens to all those rejected pieces of yourself? Spoiler alert, they do not just vanish. If we go a layer deeper into the subconscious, we hit what Jung famously called the shadow. If the persona is what we proudly show the world, the shadow is the basement where we hide everything else. It holds absolutely everything we've rejected. We're talking deep fears, unspoken desires, vulnerabilities, and, crazy enough, even your untapped hidden strengths. And here is the absolute kicker. Ignoring this stuff doesn't make it go away. Not even a little. Instead, it just operates under the radar, secretly pulling the strings on how you behave and react.
Just look at the massive split we end up creating. On one side, you've got this conscious, approval-seeking exterior. On the other, this completely unconscious, hidden interior. We spend so much exhausting energy polishing the outside while totally ignoring what's locked beneath. But the thing is, the shadow is incredibly powerful. And because we refuse to look at it directly, it just finds other, usually unconscious ways to bleed into our daily lives.
So what does it look like when the shadow actually takes the wheel? Well, have you ever just intensely disliked someone? Like maybe a coworker who's a bit too loud or a little too confident and you can't even figure out why? Jung called this projection. Basically, when you're deeply triggered by someone else, it's usually because they're mirroring a hidden trait from your own shadow. Or maybe you've self-sabotaged a totally amazing opportunity because of some fear you won't admit to. Or maybe you just walk around with this persistent, nagging anxiety or feeling lost. Until you drag that shadow out into the light, it is absolutely going to keep running the show from behind the curtain.
All right, let's go even deeper. Part 3, the archetypes within, the ancient blueprints of your mind.
Because the rabbit hole does go deeper. Way past your personal shadow is the absolute foundation of the psyche. Jung introduced this wild, revolutionary idea of archetypes. He argued that beneath our own personal baggage, there is a collective unconscious, a psychological layer shared by literally every human being, passed down from our ancestors. And archetypes are the universal blueprints stored down there.
We're not just talking about characters from movies or fairy tales, like the hero or the villain. These are active, living psychological forces that are constantly battling inside us, literally shaping how we perceive the entire world.
To see this in action, let's look at a really powerful archetype pairing, the anima and the animus. Jung suggested that within every man there's a hidden feminine side, the anima, which drives intuition, emotion, and creativity. And within every woman, there's a hidden masculine side, the animus, driving logic, structure, and discipline. Now, to be clear, this is not about physical gender, it's entirely about balancing opposing energies. When we reject half of who we are, like a guy who's terrified of being vulnerable or a woman who feels she can't be assertive, we create this massive inner turmoil. Balancing these forces, that's where true strength actually comes from.
Which brings us to Part 4, Beyond the Ego, Shattering the Illusion of Self.
So now we hit the very core of the psyche, and it requires confronting a truth that is kind of terrifying but also incredibly liberating. It's a total reframe of who you are. Most of us just assume we're a static, unchanging self, right? We think we are our memories, our job title, our name. But Jung, along with some of the greatest philosophers in history, understood something totally radical. You are not a static entity. The person you think you are is just a temporary construct. In reality, you are this vast, fluid, interconnected expression of consciousness, packing depths of unacknowledged wisdom and potential that you probably haven't even tapped into yet.
So, if we're so limitless, why do we usually feel so small and stuck? One word, the ego. Now, the ego gets a bad rap, but it isn't inherently evil. It actually helps us navigate the physical world. But it's also the exact part of your mind that constantly creates a sense of separation. It's that little voice inside saying, this is who I am and this is who I am not. It builds walls. It desperately clings to familiar, safe labels. And because the ego demands absolute certainty, it ironically becomes the single biggest roadblock to actually stepping into your limitless potential.
Okay, let's get practical. Part 5, The Path to Wholeness and Your Toolkit for Transformation. How do we actually get past the ego and stop feeling like strangers in our own minds? The ultimate goal of this whole explainer and this entire psychological journey is what Jung called individuation. Now, individuation is not about forcing yourself into some new identity or trying to become someone else entirely. It's actually the exact opposite. It's about uncovering what's already buried inside you. It's the transformative process of embracing literally every part of yourself, the good, the bad, the light, and the dark, and integrating them into one whole, authentic person. Essentially, it's about reclaiming your missing pieces.
So here is Jung's actionable roadmap for breaking out of the illusion. Step 1, embrace the unknown. Look, the unknown is super uncomfortable, but it is exactly where growth happens, so lean into it with a bit of curiosity. Step 2, release your labels. You are so much more than your job title or your past mistakes. Step 3, listen to your unconscious. Start paying real attention to your dreams, to art, or just those gut intuitions. They're literally sending you messages on how to become whole. And finally, step 4, surrender. You have to accept that finding yourself is an ongoing, lifelong journey. It is not a finish line you just cross one day and you're done.
I want to leave you with this provocative thought. The true self you've been desperately trying to find, it's been there the whole time. It's just waiting for you to remember it. So the choice is entirely up to you. Are you going to keep living as a fragment, tied down by old fears and societal masks and illusions? Or are you going to step forward into the unknown, totally unapologetic, and embrace the vast, limitless being you were always meant to be? Like Jung said, life doesn't truly begin until you find yourself. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I will catch you in the next one.